Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 181, Ships Ready. General POV. Dunphy's house, late at night. My legs are still shaky. Haley whined as she walked with Alex to the kitchen. Claire was tapping on her laptop as she saw the girls, and quietly listened in to their conversation. Claire grabbed her cup of tea and slowly sipped it. Subsequently, Alex continued replying to Haley, "With all of the grunting and moaning you did, I'd be more concerned for your throat." Claire spat out her drink in shock, and looked at her daughter with a horrified expression as she wiped her mouth with a napkin. What? Haley said casually, "Ignore Alex's mom. She's jealous because she wasn't the one laying down on the bed." Alex snorted and spoke sarcastically, "Yeah, I'm jealous that I had to watch you having a good time alone." "Ugh, I know for sure this will come in to haunt me again in my dreams later." Claire's voice shook and she asked, "Haley, you ever had a good time, and you make Alex watch?" Haley defended herself, "Well, she's the one who insisted on staying. I wanted her to leave me alone too. At first I thought it'd be weird, but turns out, I'm okay with it." Claire gasped sharply and covered up her mouth as her eyes got glassy. "Geez, Mom. Why do you look so anxious? You know what? Maybe you should arrange some time and let Ed work his magic on you too," Haley said, not thinking much. What? Claire exclaimed in disbelief. Haley smiled and said excitedly, "Yeah, Mom. The way he just gets in there and continues digging the sore spot, despite how many times you scream, but what you really want is for him to get in there more." "Haley, that's enough." Claire couldn't even look Haley in the eye after that. Phil walked in at that moment and asked, "Hey honey. Dad. Edward is amazing." Haley spoke excitedly. "Don't tell your dad that," Claire said hurriedly and panicky. Phil was confused and then smiled, "No wait. I already knew that. Alex told me when they came back. I texted Edward to see if I can learn from him." Phil's commentary. "When Alex told me that he's great at massaging, I'm doubtful at first, to be honest. But then, I saw Haley with a light glow on her skin, and even her steps became airy. Not to brag, but I have a masseuse certificate. But I could never do what he did. Claire has been working extra hard for these few months. So, I wanted to do something nice for her. Even if I'm not the one that's going to give it to her, I'd be fine with Edward taking over my job." Phil's commentary. Haley grinned and said, "You really should learn that. Maybe learn it when Mom went there and get it from him. You can stay on the chair beside them like Alex did." "Ooh. I should get a camera too so that I can rewatch the whole thing at night to learn." Phil nodded as he was acknowledging what Haley said, but Claire was really horrified right now. "You guys are sick. This whole family is sick." Claire scolded before she anxiously stormed away, grabbing Luke with her as she got out of the house. "Honey, where are you going?" Phil asked. "All I want to do is ask Edward to show you a good time. I know you want it too." "No. I don't," Claire said from afar. Alex then realized something. "Does Mom know we were talking about a massage?" What else could it be?" Phil asked, confused. Haley was also confused, leaving Alex alone there trying to hold back her laugh. "You really should explain to her about the topic of the conversation," Alex said to Phil before she cackled. Then, she stopped and spoke sternly, seriously. "You should go there and tell her that right now. Or else she won't ever come back to the house." "I got it." Phil didn't question his smart daughter and ran for Claire immediately. The sisters didn't react much to the normal family drama. Haley changed the subject and asked, "Oh yeah. What did you guys talk about before we went back? Oh. He said he's going to bake. I noticed that he's already really tired, so I said no. Alex replied. Huh? Tired, wait. How did he say it? He said, I'm going to get baked, just go get your sister's voice out of my head. His grammar was already all over the place. Alex replied with a slight chuckle. Haley widened her eyes, but then she smiled and said, you know. Sometimes, you're so smart. Sometimes. Huh? Alex was smiling at first but then was confused as to why Haley stressed out the word sometimes at the end. Edward POV. Why did I make some dough last night? I wondered as I checked the fridge after I woke up in the morning. It was only 4:30 a.m., and the sun wasn't even up yet. I don't know. Every time I asked you about it, you just giggled and slapped the dough. Then, you ate a bunch of snacks before going to sleep. My dad replied as he was sipping coffee. Usually, we get up around 5:30 to 6, but today was a special day. Oh. Never mind that then. I replied, not wanting for him to realize that I was as high as a kite last night. They are hauling your new ship to the dock right now, are you excited? Excited as I'll ever be with a ship's engine so faulty, its role model was the Titanic. My dad joked. To be fair, Titanic didn't have an engine problem. They have the iceberg problem, and most of the rich people on board were against the Federal Reserve decision to print more money, so you know they won't be able to live that long. Wait. Is that real? Nah. I'm just messing around. You hear that, NSAO agent tapping into our phones? I joked. My dad smiled and said, someone seems to be in a good mood today? I'm in a good mood every day. I woke up and still have my money. I said as I did a gangsta gesture. By the way, since I have the giant ass dough, I'm thinking of making cronets. But it's going to take an hour for me to bake it. What's a cronet? My dad asked. I looked at him in disdain and said, so uncultural. My dad was really confused about this. Why wouldn't he be, since cronets wouldn't be invented till 2013, and I currently have no idea that it didn't exist in this world yet. A cronet was a mixture of croissant and donut, hence the name, cronet. It became viral the moment it was invented. In my past life, I was a big fan of the pastry, but I never knew the history of it. So, should I do it or not? I asked my dad again. He thought about it and then shrugged his shoulders. It doesn't matter if we're a bit late. We're the boss. So, I'd say, do it. All right. So now, go away. I want to record the process and upload it, so you staying here will ruin the video's quality. I'm not sure if that's a technical term or an insult. Whenever you aren't sure about something, just go straight to insult. Trust your instinct on this. I smirked at him and chased him away. He didn't go far, and just sat out of the video's frame. While I was setting up the cameras, he said, I may be remembering this wrong, but didn't you hate, and if I may quote you on this, the parasitical waste of human society of the Instagram influencers, so why are you trying to be like them right now? I held a knife at my dad and warned, call me an influencer again, and I'll stick this somewhere where the sun doesn't shine. How dare you compare someone who was giving the gift of food porn to the world to someone who even porn industry is going to reject? Just for that, I'm downgrading your cronet amount from 2 to 1. Oh come on. My dad whined. Ugh. I hate this new dynamic between us. He complained fakely. Well, go get me a new mother. That for sure will change the dynamics of everything. I joked/seriously said to him. He froze for a while and let out a fake cough before saying, do you want any help? There's no need. I can do it on my own. But I'm going to need containers to put them in. I pressed the record button on the camera and started cooking. However, just like with my dad, I made the whole video on the assumption that people knew what a cronet was. My dad took out a couple of boxes from the cupboard and asked me weirdly, why do we have donut boxes here, and why are they labeled, so simple? It was an orange and red colored box with the label, foodstuff, on it. I rolled my eyes at him and said, well, it's not like I'm going to make my own bakery. It's just something I need, and the suppliers won't custom make it if there wasn't a brand name on it. And you think a good name for it should be, foodstuff? It is for the food and stuff. Stop bothering me and go fold the boxes. I turned back to the camera while I was cutting the dough I had flattened and said, I'm not going to make it circular, but instead I'm going to make it a rectangular cronut. 'Cause making circular ones is going to give me a lot of work to re-knead them. After I finished making the cronut, I put one on a plate and then glazed it. Then, I captured the finished product and then finally filmed me taking a bite of it and asking people to try it out on their own and enjoy. Then, I turned off the camera and then started making the cronut in a large batch. As we boxed them up, my dad was following me from behind with a post-it notes and recorded where these pastries were going to go and for who. First box is for Frankie, Dwayne, Glenn, you, Dina, and the guys at the docks. I said as I packed up 18 cronuts in 3 boxes. Secondly is for Jay, 'cause he likes to try new stuff. So 3 for Jay, Gloria, and Manny. Third box is for Mitchell, Cameron, and Lily, 'cause if they know that I had given Jay one and they didn't get it, there will be so much drama. So right now I'm torn as to whether I should give it to them or not. It's also 3 for them. The fourth box with the pink bows on it is for Pepper, Ronaldo, Harvey, and Randall. I'm sure Leo's still high, so I put another one extra for him, so 6 cronuts there. Fifth one is for Taylor and Selena. 'Cause they will kill me if I don't give it to them. I said as I pointed at the tiny box. The next box is for my friends that's still in middle school, Billy, Phineas, and Enid. I also put some for Mrs. Henderson in there. There's 4 for them. The one next to them is for those in high school, Jenna, Elsa, Abraham, Tara, Jacob, and also for Sage. Wait. Sage is in your school? She's a high schooler? My dad asked, confused. Ah. No. She's a substitute history teacher. And her real name's Miss Anna. Ah. My dad exclaimed in realization. Got it. And the last one is for the Dunphys. I'm going to go there and give it to them right now. I'm sure that Claire is already up. I said as I picked up a box. I don't think you're going to Calexico to give Aunt Camila one, so we'll just store it in the fridge for her. My dad went to store the boxes inside the Ford Dodger car that I was going to drive to school with today, and some inside his own car. But before I walked out of the door, I suddenly stopped as I realized something. I packed up more than 30 cronuts today. I muttered with my lips curling up. 36 to be exact. So? My dad asked, confused. Nothing. It just feels funny when I think that I have more than 30 people that I'm close with. I can't imagine doing this half a year ago. I said with a chuckle. My dad smiled kindly and patted my shoulder before saying, yeah. Life has really turned out for the better, right? Ugh, don't be so lame. I rolled my eyes at him and then walked out of the house. Ding dong asterisk. I rang the house's doorbell, and I didn't have to wait long for Claire to open up the door while still in her nightdress and robes. Why are you here so early in the morning? Claire asked. I came here bringing nuts. I said, causing her to be baffled. Cronuts to be exact. Here. I can't stay here for so long, so you guys enjoy this during your breakfast. Claire was confused. What's a cronut? You know what, I don't even care about that right now. The smell is so good. Of course it's good. I made it myself. All right. Bye. General POV. Claire couldn't react until after Edward had left. Thank you. She screamed from afar. She smiled and then said, what a sweet kid, completely forgetting about last night's affairs. A few minutes later in the kitchen, as Claire was taking pictures of the cronuts to share it to her family members, Haley walked downstairs groggily and went to the fridge. Oh, good morning, honey, Claire tried to greet Haley, but the daughter held her finger up, gesturing to give her a second. Then, Haley took out the big jug of milk from the fridge and started gulping it down. Claire frowned in disgust. Haley used a glass, however. She slowly widened his eyes in shock as she saw that Haley was downing the milk without rest. Ah! Haley exclaimed with a milk mustache on her face as she finished the entire milk. What the? Claire was baffled. Mom! I'm starving. Do we have any meat or chicken? Haley asked, causing Claire to put her hand on her forehead to take her temperature. You're not feverish. What's going on? Did you do drugs last night? Claire asked in suspicion. What's this? Haley ignored Claire's accusation as she saw the box. That. Edward stopped by and gave us some pastries. It's called Cronut Dot. Oh. Haley picked one up and took a bite. She then exclaimed, "Oh my God. This is so good. I'm in love with cronuts." She wiped the white glaze off her lips and then licked that stuff off her fingers. Let me try one too. Claire said as she happily picked one up and then tried it. Oh my God. I can't stop eating this, she said. After they finished one, Haley and Claire found themselves eating a second cronut each, leaving only 2 of them in the box. Claire let out a gasp after she realized what had just happened. Wait. Haley. We need to stop. Do we really need to, Mom? Other than us, who else knows that Edward had sent these bites of heavens directly on our doorsteps this early in the morning? Claire hesitated for a while. All right. If we're going to do this, we need to make sure that we left no evidence behind. Got it. Then, the mother and daughter finished the last 2 cronuts and then threw the box into the trash, in which Haley then took the trash outside for the garbage truck to pick up. Wow, that's the first time that you had ever actively volunteered to do chores, Claire exclaimed after Haley got back inside. At 7 a.m., Alex walked downstairs to the kitchen, and then her nose suddenly picked up a scent. What is that sweet smell? She asked, causing Haley and Claire, who were sipping coffee at the table, to widen their eyes. Edward POV. After I sent the cronuts, I rushed back home to change my clothes and then drove to the port. I stopped by Jay's house and Cam's house, and used a longer route than my dad, causing me to arrive there 20 minutes later than him. Frankie, who was wearing a business suit, smiled and greeted me as she saw me rushing over. You're going to be late to school. It's fine. The principal and I have an understanding. I grinned at her. Ah. I missed the part where the ship enters the water. Has anyone broken a bottle at the hull yet? Frankie replied as she thought about it, no. I don't think they have. Good. 'Cause I want to do that, I said as I rushed to the front after dropping off the cronut box at Frankie's hand. May she always sail safe and sound, my dad said as I slammed the bottle at the ship's hull. The crew cheered as they watched the sleek, classy, 50 meters long yacht with the sign, Moby Dick 2 on the back. All right. Let's get back to work. My dad was trying to get the crew to calm down, but then he saw me humming something as I watched the new ship. Edward. What's that? What are you singing? He asked. Huh? Oh, just a sea shanty. Not important, I said dismissively. Dwayne and the other sailors who heard it were excited. Dwayne said, well, if it's a sea shanty, then you should start singing it, and then we will all join in. Nah. I'm not a sailor. I tried to get away, but I couldn't. Dwayne grabbed me and said, why are you so embarrassed? You're the top singer in the country right now, and you're afraid of singing a sea shanty. I'm not afraid. I'm just, have school, I replied sternly. Dwayne was a little embarrassed, but then my dad said, well then, you'd better sing right now, or else you'll be late. Glenn then shouted with his high-pitched Muppet voice, or else, you won't be able to go to school today. All right. Now, give me a guitar. I gave up as I saw their excited look. Frankie said, oh. You need a guitar to sing a sea shanty? I just need something to knock on to play the beat. best if it was a guitar. I replied to her. She smiled and said, got it. Here you go. I started drumming on the back of the guitar and then sang the song. Wellerman, Sea Shanty, by Nathan Evans.
There once was a ship that put to sea. The name of the ship was a Billy of Tea. The winds blew up her bow, up down, oh below my bully boys blow.
The sailors smiled and then filled up their morning cup of coffee with liquor. I hopped on the top of the table and sang.
Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
Remember this part. I shouted to them. Frankie was confused and whispered to my dad, what's a Wellerman? I don't know. I think it means traders. I'll ask him about it later. My dad replied with a whisper too. Then, I caught both of them making eyes at each other, blushing and giggling, which made me confused and almost slipped from the table. Wasn't she a lesbian? I thought secretly.
She'd not been 2 weeks from shore when down on her a right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow.
All together now, I shouted. The whole crew then sang together in harmony.
Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
I laughed before I sang alone.
Da 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 da. Before the boat had hit the water, the whale's sail came up and caught her. All hands to the side, harping and fought her when she dived down low.
Together.
Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. No line was cut, no whale was freed. The captain's mind was not of greed, and he belonged to the whaleman's creed. She took that ship in tow.
Oh God. This story is like Moby Dick's story. And even that name is here, on the new ship's bow. Glenn shouted in a weird high-pitched voice. Well, higher pitch than the normal high pitch. Together.
Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
Together.
Da 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 da. For 40 days or even more, the lane went slack, then tight once more. All boats were lost, there were only 4, but still that whale did go. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. As far as I've heard, the fight's still on. The line's not cut and the whale's not gone. The Wellerman makes his regular call to encourage the captain, crew and all.
Together.
Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
I slowed down the music and then sang the last verse.
Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
The crowd clapped and cheered shortly after that. Then, they returned to their cakes and drinks, which made me feel a little bit like a cheap whore. Putz, sailors. I scowled in disgust as I walked to my dad and Frankie. Hey Dad. Are you trying to teach Frankie what tonguing means? 'Cause you should teach her in private for that. My dad widened his eyes while Frankie chuckled. I know what tonguing means, Ed. But thanks for thinking about me. I chuckled a bit seeing their reaction, and then I whispered to Frankie, I thought you liked girls? What? Why do you think that? Or ask about that? Frankie was confused. Never mind. I'm going to get to school. Bye. Oh, and Dad, make sure that everything is okay with the ship first before taking her out. Stop nagging. Go. You're late. He chased me away quickly to prevent me talking to Frankie anymore. Ah, and by the way, I approve of her if you want her to be my new mother. Goo. My dad scolded me as I tried to speak with him again in the car. Then, I drove off quickly and then stopped by the middle school first to leave the pastry to Mrs. Henderson, got scolded by her for a while because I wasn't in my class, and only after that did I get to my high school. Chapter 182, Do. General POV. The school bell rang, signifying the end of the first classroom session, and the students poured into the hallways to store their books in their lockers and retrieve the ones for the next class. However, Edward had to wait until the students had moved on to their next class before he could leave the classroom. Hey Ed, are you heading to the biolab? Haley approached Edward and asked as he placed his books inside Jacob's locker. Yeah, I'll see you there, Edward replied. Haley was taken aback. Wait, did I do something wrong? She was confused as to why Edward didn't want to walk to class with her. Edward smirked and playfully said, You did. You did something very wrong. Haley was startled. What did I do? You tortured me last night. I had to get high just to calm myself down, Edward teased. I thought your mother's reaction during the massage was bad enough, but you seem to be an upgraded version of that. What? She was confused. I'm referring to the seductive moans and squirms. Ah, that. Haley felt relieved. Haley's commentary. I thought he found out that my mom and I finished all the pastries he sent us. Commentary ends. Haley batted her eyes and then playfully scoffed, for that reason? I mean, it's not like you're turned on or anything, are you? Why, only an insane person would be able to keep their rationality if they experienced what I did. Haley smiled mischievously and said, Good. Good? Edward asked, both confused and amused. Haley didn't continue but leaned in towards Edward and whispered, Also, what's with that massage? Why didn't any of my bras fit this morning? None of them? Edward asked, his gaze directed at Haley's chest. She squeezed her elbows together and said seductively, Yeah. I had to go no bra today. I think it's swollen. All right, you need a timeout, Edward said sternly, pointing in the direction of the biolab. Go there on your own and think about what you did. Haley rolled her eyes, sashayed away while swaying her buttocks, and then turned briefly to see if Edward was still looking at her. He was. She smirked and continued walking. Fuck, Edward cursed under his breath. I hate being a teenager again, he mumbled while rubbing the back of his head, causing his hair to become a mess. Suddenly, Edward received a text from Alex. Science nerd, can't believe you forgot about me. Science nerd, pic.png. It was a photo of Billy, Phineas, and Enid eating the cronut, but there was none for Alex. Edward was confused and texted back, I did? I gave it to your mother this morning. Science nerd, what? You're joking, right? Edward. Just ask your mom about it. Eye rolling emoji, I gave it to her this morning. Edward scoffed as he sent the text, muttering, Alex won't lie so casually. So what happened there? At Franklin Middle School, Alex angrily pounced and stole a bite of the cronut that Phineas was holding as they walked to class. Hey! You feral, glasses-wearing jungle cat! Phineas cursed with a smile. He didn't mind sharing the pastry with Alex. Alex munched the pastry and swallowed it before saying, It's great. Damn it, now I'm really mad that I noticed it at home this morning. Ugh. Enid laughed at Alex's misery and muttered while biting the pastry, I want more. Let's stop by his home and raid his fridge after school, Billy suggested. Alex chuckled and said, Nice idea, but I don't think he kept any at home. And he has football practice after this. Phineas furrowed his brow and said, Don't get me wrong. I support him in the game, but I still think it's really dangerous for him to participate in matches. People get injured all the time in the game. Billy and Enid froze, and Enid said anxiously, Wait. He can get injured? Yeah. Why do you think they have to wear all that protection? Alex replied. We should stop him. If something happens to his hands, he can't make any music anymore. Enid shouted. As Enid yelled, Mrs. Henderson walked toward the group of kids and reprimanded them. Alex, Enid, Billy, and Phineas. Why are you still loitering in the hallway? Class started a few minutes ago. Do you have a hall pass to be here? Alex turned pale and spoke honestly. You're the one who called us to the teacher's lounge. Then, she froze as she realized she had retorted to the teacher, no. I'm sorry, Mrs. Henderson. I gave you enough time to get back to class, but you took advantage of that. All of you are to stay behind for detention today, Mrs. Henderson said with a cold voice. No! Enid screamed, devastated. She grabbed Mrs. Henderson's hand and begged, can we postpone it to tomorrow? Edward is having a practice match today. Mrs. Henderson paused to think for a moment before saying, no. As the kids pitifully walked away towards their respective classes, Mrs. Henderson heard a male voice coming from behind her. Harsh, Gong Shin, the Afterlife senior agent, said. Mrs. Henderson turned with an extremely cold expression, cold enough that the air surrounding the two people started to freeze. Ice fractals could be seen floating around, and Mrs. Henderson exclaimed angrily, look who we have here. The manager who forgot to do his job and made me stuck here longer than I needed to. Sorry about that. But please don't put the blame on me. I asked you the question about the arrangement, and you still couldn't answer me. The air thawed out, and Mrs. Henderson asked, why are you here? Before I answer your question, I need to ask, do you still not have the answer to that question? Or, maybe asking you to arrange your own death was too much for the immaculate, rule stickler Afterlife employee who's currently having second thoughts about her own life here. Mrs. Henderson paused for a while, and then she said, just randomize it as usual. Gongshin laughed, you know I can't do that. Mrs. Henderson furrowed her eyebrows, why? You usually randomize it. Yeah, but this is a new rule the upper management is enforcing. So my hands are tied, Gongshin said dismissively while shrugging and shaking his head. If you feel that you can't make a decision, then just submit an official complaint to the headquarters. All right. Then, grab a pen. I'm making my formal complaint right now, Mrs. Henderson said coldly. Gongshin easily dismissed her and said, stop joking around. By the way, I need to tell you this. Edward figured it out. Mrs. Henderson widened her eyes, and her heart raced quickly. She asked fearfully, what? Then, did he accept my presence here? If he's mad at me, then he wouldn't have sent the dessert to me personally this morning. Or was he trying to confirm something? But I couldn't see anything strange about him. She couldn't help but be confused when she heard it. Maybe there's a part of her that wanted to come clean to Edward, as she couldn't help but notice that she was feeling some relief mixed up with a lot of other emotions that are currently washing over her right now. Gongshin looked at Mrs. Henderson in confusion, oh no. He figured out that the Afterlife Corps is monitoring him, but he didn't know that you're his supervisor. What? Mrs. Henderson was baffled. Gongshin smirked and said, he thought it was Johnson, the muscular mommy PE teacher. Her quitting over the summer didn't help with his suspicion. Why? Mrs. Henderson asked. Right? I thought so too, Gongshin said playfully. With his new investigative skills, he should have figured it out a long time ago. But he continuously rejected that notion. Every time it came into his mind, he pushed it far, far away to the back of it. Maybe it was denial. After all, you're the closest thing he has to a mother after his mom left. He didn't want to accept that the only reason you were nice to him is because you're obligated to do that. Mrs. Henderson froze in her spot. Gongshin smiled kindly and said, he loves you, very, very much, you know? So much so that after he had that thought, he wanted to confront Sage about the matter. So I had to expose myself prematurely and explain a few things to him. Otherwise, Sage would have gotten hurt by a human being once again, Gongshin said casually. Mrs. Henderson was speechless. Gongshin patted her shoulder and said, don't worry about it. He was actually pretty okay with it. I have to admit, I've come to like that kid. He is one of the rare few people who made my job easier. Gongshin secretly thought, unlike you or that old granny sage, as he kept a few secrets hidden from his fellow employees in this particular world. One of those secrets was that Sage, or Mrs. Henderson's presence here, wasn't even necessary. The monitoring could be done without them appearing in front of Edward. Another secret was that there was no punishment when two afterlife agents interacted in their daily lives. Sage's punishment was entirely made up, and she was forced to stay here for no reason at all. Flashback. Wait. I'm the one who's supposed to monitor her. Edward asked in disbelief after hearing Gongshin's explanation. Edward looked at the frozen-in-time sage from afar and then back at Gongshin. Yes. You could say it's part of her therapy. She has been through a lot, Edward. She saw the person she helped and cherished, burned alive right in front of her eyes. It made her closed off and reluctant to help anyone after that, Gongshin said in a low voice. But surprisingly, when you accidentally joined her session, she changed a bit. You can't imagine how shocked I was to see that. So I'm begging you, Edward. Let her stay here and live among human beings for a while. Take care of her. And I'll do you a favor. What favor? Edward asked. Not that I won't do it because there's no benefit for me. Gongshin smiled kindly and said, I know. That's why I believe in you. In the last session, your suspended animation caused a lot of trouble for you, right? Edward nodded, and Gongshin continued, so, if you do this for me, I'll give you a notification one day before your gacha session. That way, you can avoid all that mess. Oh, that's awesome, Edward exclaimed. Right? Win-win. End of flashback. Alright, I can't stay here for long. Just make sure you answer that question as soon as you can, if you actually want to go back, Gongshin said with a smirk. Eve Henderson was in a dilemma about that question. She couldn't find a way to leave this world without hurting the ones close to her, and she didn't want anyone to mourn for her. Unbeknownst to her, she wanted to see Edward and the students she had taught grow up and succeed in their dreams. It's not that she couldn't answer the question, but her heart didn't want her to. As Mrs. Henderson struggled internally, she then looked at Gongshin and asked again, Why are you here today? Gongshin realized it and said, Oh, right. I know Edward gave you 2 kronuts, so... Can I have one? They're already sold out in dessert stores in the state. Get lost, Mrs. Henderson skillfully cursed her unreliable senior, as she always did before. In Korean, gon means emptiness among many others. It also means football. Shin also means ghost, devil, phantom as well as god. In other words, anything supernatural has been called historically. So take that what you will. LOL. Edward POV. I led the team, fully equipped with their uniforms, as we danced to the song. Reluctantly, the embarrassed teens followed along while the crowd laughed at them. Come on, people. Keep your chin up. This is what happens when one of you is late for practice, I shouted at them. Tyler retorted, but you're the only one who's late. I am part of the team, aren't I? I smirked. Come on, Dylan didn't sing Baby Shark for nothing. Dylan? Dylan Marshall? Tyler muttered in confusion. That dumbass? Jacob performed the mummy shark part with intense focus and vigor. Tyrone, standing behind him, shyly muttered, Man, calm down. You're drawing attention to us. Aren't you embarrassed dancing to this? Jacob shouted, Granny Shark do, and then added, to be completely honest. I kind of like it. Tyrone was speechless after that. Cam held Lily's hand as she excitedly danced to the song while sitting in the baby carrier. After finishing the dance, I walked toward Lily and said, aren't you glad you met me, Lily? Because there aren't any other men who would create a song just for a baby girl they just met." Cam chuckled, and Lily reached out to me while babbling. Compared to her series counterpart, she was incredibly active as a baby. But that might be because the baby actress in this series was afraid of the cameras and strangers, so she couldn't really react much. Therefore, I thought Lily was quite passive. Cam smiled sarcastically and said, I thought Taylor would be the first person to sing a song written by you. I didn't expect Dylan to debut with it first." I laughed and replied, "It's just a song for babies. And he contributed to a lot of those songs, kind of." Yes, before Dylan went to college, I asked him if he wanted to become an artist and kept my promise to help him. However, after working and making money at the part-time job on the cruise, his mindset changed. Dylan had an amazing affinity with children, maybe because their minds were somewhat similar. He sang a lot of nonsensical songs, and it resonated well with kids under 10 years old. His aspiration for singing these songs stemmed from his own lack of experience with someone singing children's songs to him. He wanted to provide that experience to kids who might be just like him. Apparently, his mom would play the song Sexy Kitty on repeat for hours in their house as he was growing up. He's kind of like Charlie Harper from 2.5 Men in this universe, except without the promiscuity, money, and charisma, I secretly thought. Dylan became famous among new parents and little children, and he was content with that. I replied to Cam, also, I've already recorded a few songs with Taylor and collaborated with other artists. Dylan is like number 8 on that list. Cam smiled and said, I know, I'm just joking. Oh, and Cam, since you're here helping out, I'll tell you a secret that only Dwayne and I know. Spill it, boy, spill, Cam said excitedly, eager to hear the gossip. Dylan is getting married. Cam's jaw dropped, and he screamed, What? Calm down, we haven't even reached the juicy part yet, I said, smirking. Do you want to know why he's singing all these children's songs? Cam nodded, and then his eyes widened in realization. You mean? Yeah, he got someone pregnant. Who? 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 Cam asked enthusiastically. I grinned and said, Anais, his prom date. Cam gasped and said, I thought his premature ejaculation problem was solved? Yeah, it was resolved after a week. And that's not how it happened. They became a couple over the summer, had their first pregnancy scare, got tested, realized they were worried for nothing, and then celebrated by doing the thing that initially caused the pregnancy scare again. Apparently, he has hypervirility after that whole incident. They didn't know it, and neither did the doctor. Edward, come on! Jacob shouted from the field. We're all waiting for you. Cam shouted to the team, Wait! Wait! We're discussing something important here. Then he whispered to me, How did she react? She got pregnant at 18, and I don't think she's happy about it. I'm not happy about it either. Yeah, at first she wanted to be a model, but that was only because she didn't know how to do anything else. She freaked out, but then Dylan calmed her down and proposed to her. He's making a lot of money now, so it was stupid for her to say no, I explained. Cam noticed the expression on my face and asked, confused, Why do you look so jealous about that? I shrugged and replied, I don't know. He's all happy, starting a family with the woman he loves. I envy that. I want that too. Anais didn't agree to marry him just because he's rich, he became rich after she agreed. He calls her and the baby his Clover of Luck because Anais's last name is Clover. Both of them decided to move to Colorado to be closer to Anais's family, and they continued their studies at Greendale Community College together. And since they were going to have a baby, I decided not to give Dylan all of his money. Instead, I'll manage it for him, I explained. Am I doing the right thing here? I only did it because last time he had money, he exchanged it all for skee-ball tickets, I asked. Cam nodded and reassured me, You did. You absolutely did. Alright, now that I'm satisfied, let's play football. The players split into 2 teams, with 11 people on each team. I became the quarterback for the first team, which mostly consisted of freshmen and only a couple of senior students. Tyler was the quarterback for the other team, which included all the veterans and first-team players. "You're going down, bitch," Tyler shouted at me as we prepared for the game. Jacob expressed concern and asked, "Ed, are you sure about this? We're going to get destroyed." I glanced in Tyler's direction and smirked before responding to Jacob and the team. "You know what? It might not necessarily happen that way. Yes, we might get destroyed in the beginning, but I believe in a high-pressure training system. None of you standing here today are truly novices at football. You've watched a lot of games, you've practiced for a long time, and while you may not know the strategies and winning plans yet, you can leave that part to me. Remember this, just follow my instructions, and we're going to crush the other teams. You got it?" My teammates looked at me suspiciously after my pep talk. I sighed and added, "And the winning team will receive a $100 coupon to the Cheesecake Factory to celebrate after this. Kick their ass. Kill them. Slit their throats." My teammates thunderously shouted their enthusiasm after hearing about the prize. I smirked and then glanced at Tyler with a hint of pity. Poor guy. And here he was excited to be the captain again today. We were struggling at the beginning, but after we switched from defense to offense, Tyler couldn't handle our rising. My team won the game, 42-24, with no team managing to kick the ball into the goalpost. If my team has a kicker, we would have a lot more points than that. Chapter 183, What the Rain Brought. Edward POV. After the football practice, Haley walked towards me with a towel. She grinned and said, "You're a monster. You completely broke him." She turned towards Tyler, the only in-name captain that was sitting on the ground with a depressed blank look on his face. I chuckled as I took off my helmet and said playfully, "What? He's broken? How could that happen?" Haley rolled her eyes before she changed the subject. "You know, the cheerleaders' tryout is tomorrow." "Well, I am interested in that, but I think I already have too much on my plate already. You know, with work and football practice." She snorted and said, "As much as I would love to see you in a cheerleader outfit, I was talking about me." "Oh, then, no. Don't become a cheerleader." "Huh?" Haley was confused. "Why not?" "Because I'm a very selfish man. My needs trump everything else," I said with a sarcastic undertone. Haley tilted her head quizzically. "Really? The man who wouldn't stop poking his nose in other people's affairs?" she teased. I looked at her for a few seconds before replying, "Yeah. That man." She chuckled a bit and then asked, "Then nosy man, why are you stopping me?" "I told you. I'm selfish. I'm fine with others becoming a cheerleader. But just not you." She was a bit irate and said, "Tell me the truth." I chuckled, held her chin with my hand, and gazed into her eyes. "I am being honest with you. I don't want you to be a cheerleader. The cheerleading team needs to cheer for everyone. I want you to cheer, only for me." With a slight smirk, I left the frozen Haley alone to process my words. Cam heard and saw everything that happened as he was standing nearby, and his face was filled with disbelief. Cameron's commentary. How do you recover from that? Poor Haley. She's going to be crushed. As Cam was certain that Edward was dating Taylor, he was worried for Haley. But, at the same time, I kinda wanna see what's going to happen between them. This is currently more interesting to me compared to Chris Brown and Rihanna's. Wait, that's not an appropriate comparison. Kim K and Ray Z? But, that involved a whisper sex tape. Cam thought about it and finally said, "It is comparable to the love affair between me and the young rodeo boy in Missouri. We also have an unrequited love, that is, I was in love with him. He's straight, so I have no chance at all. See? Haley and I are the same." Commentary ends. General POV. We're going to the Cheesecake Factory, Edward announced to the entire team. Although they were separated into two teams during the practice match before, Edward didn't discriminate and wanted to treat all of them out for a meal, even if he said that only the winners of the practice match would get the reward. Tyler, who was depressed, instantly lit up and excitedly cheered at Edward's announcement. Edward's dietary requirement for them was considered strict and burdensome, so they wanted to use this opportunity to settle the condition without implicating their family. Kids that were going to a public school in California, especially in this quite rich neighborhood, their family wasn't doing pretty well. Not all of them, though. There are students who came here because their parents believed in the public school education system, such as Jenna, Jacob, and Haley. Jenna's mother still has millions of dollars in wealth even after she was cut off by her husband's family. Jacob's dad was a college football coach and earns millions annually. Claire was earning more than six-figure income a year through my company, and Phil was the second best real estate salesman in the district. There was also Edward, who earns more than $200K per day in passive income, not including the ones that he reinvested into other ventures. So he felt responsible to take care of his teammates, even though he didn't need to. As Edward was smiling and enjoying the kids' reaction, Randall, his manager, pulled him aside. Cam and Haley looked at the duo that was arguing with concern. Cam muttered, "That's heated. What are they talking about?" Haley furrowed her brows cutely and said, There's only one thing that will make Edward react like this. It is when his plans didn't go his way." Edward then returned to the team and said, "Bad news. I can't join you guys today. But, don't worry. I'll still cover the bill." Tyler suddenly shouted, "Can you come if we go there tomorrow?" Edward was a bit confused. "If there's no emergency, I can be there tomorrow." The team members looked at each other to discuss before they turned to Edward with a smile on their faces. Tyler said, "Then, let's just postpone the dinner party. It's useless for us to have a team celebration without the entire team, doesn't it?" Edward was baffled at first before he smiled and said, "All right. Let's postpone it." Randall then whispered to Edward, "You have that Jimmy Fallon interview tomorrow." Edward whispered back to Randall, "They can start filming early and end it at 3. I already talked to Jimmy about this. I just don't have to go to school tomorrow." "Pepper wouldn't like that," Randall said hesitantly. "He said I need to be at school to make some friends my age. Aren't I doing that right now? The only thing he will say is throwing money around isn't the way to make friends." I can just remind him that he did the exact same thing before, so he would be able to argue much," Edward said with a slight smirk. He turned to Haley and said, "I need to go home right now. You want a ride?" Sure," Haley replied with a bright face. Edward walked towards his car without even changing his uniform after saying his goodbyes to everyone there with Haley by his side. She asked carefully, "What happened?" Edward sighed, rubbed the back of his head and said, "Apparently a few air fryers malfunctioned and almost caused a fire in several houses. So Healthy Fry Company is doing a callback on the products and are now trying to find out the cause of it." Haley was confused, "But, what does it have to do with you?" "Oh. Healthy Fry is Pepper's mother's company. So I need to check it out personally. You know, 'cause I invented that thing. And I also need to find out whether the problem was with the way the company is building that appliance, and if I should notify the other companies that's renting out the patents so that it won't cost the loss of lives." "But, this isn't your responsibility, right?" Haley asked again to remind Edward. Edward shrugged, "Yeah. I know that. But, I still need to check it." As Edward was driving the Ford convertible to his house, the sky suddenly darkened. "Open the roof," Haley advised. "On it," Edward said as he pushed the button on his car. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blew, causing the branches on the tree to fall down. One of them fell into the gap between the car, causing the roof to be stuck. "What the?" Edward said with a piece of leaf stuck on his hair. Haley picked the leaf quickly and shouted urgently, "Drive home. We're almost home." "But..." "Go go go," Haley urged with a smile. Edward sighed and then stepped on the gas pedal to accelerate the car quickly. However, the rain fell heavily when they were only 1 kilometer away from their home. Shit! Edward cursed as he got drenched. He saw Haley's makeup started running from her face, making him chuckle. Haley pouted with a puffy cheek and covered up her eyes. It took less than a minute to get to his home, and when he entered through the open garage door, suddenly Edward couldn't hear the rain falling down anymore. What kind of shitty luck is this? Edward laughed out loud as he saw the clear sky. Haley also laughed. You want to hop onto the hot tub? Edward asked teasingly. Only if you're joining in, Haley said coquettishly. Edward smiled and said pitifully, I need to get to my lab, so I think I'll just go home and change first. Then, I'll come by. Edward suddenly got a phone call at this moment. It was from Pepper. As he answered it, his eyes widened and he came to a realization a few times. Okay, Peps. Thanks for telling me, Edward said before he ended the call. He turned to Haley and said with a smile, well? Haley was worried for Edward. What is it? Is it a major problem? On the contrary. Some of the product was faulty because the factory supervisor tried to cut corners and embezzle money. The design is actually flawless. So Mrs. Saltzman just fired that guy. Problem solved? Haley chuckled a bit, and then she suddenly sneezed. Edward was worried and said, we should get warmed up. They entered the house together and Edward started the hot tub at the backyard before he went to change his clothing. He wore red shorts, and Haley wore some bikinis she found in Edward's aunt's pile of clothing. Dunphy's house. How could you do this to me, Claire? Phil said in a hurt manner. His eyes were teary, and his voice was shaking. Claire was sitting at the sofa, hugging her knees and lowering her head. Hello? We're here. Gloria and Jay entered the house as they helped pick up Alex from detention today, and they saw what happened as they entered the second living room. How could you betray me? Phil asked, his voice choking. Jay and Gloria froze as they heard it and fell into disbelief. I'm sorry, Phil. It was a moment of weakness, I didn't mean to do it. Claire raised her head up and begged Phil. She grabbed his hand, but he pulled it away. Once is a moment of weakness. But 3? What? Do you think that you would never get caught? Gloria gasped in horror and Jay yelled, Claire. What's the matter with you? Claire finally realized that her dad was here. She shook her head quickly and said anxiously, Dad. It's not what you think. You know what, Phil? I'm going to make this right. I'm going to go over there right now, and make this whole thing right. Gloria asked hurriedly, where are you going? To Edward's house. Claire replied hurriedly. Gloria gasped again, while Jay widened his eyes in shock. Gloria said, Claire. You did it 3 times with Edward? Or is it, his dad, Ted? Phil and Claire turned to Gloria with a confused expression. What? X2, they exclaimed simultaneously. That's not it? Gloria asked carefully. What do you think I have done? We're just talking about me eating all of Ed's desserts. Claire asked with suspicion and a little bit of anger. Oh my God. Everyone else got it. But me. Phil shouted in anger after he read a text message from Gil Thorpe, his arch-rival. Gloria finally breathed a sigh of relief and smiled playfully. Oh. I'm sorry. I thought it's about something else. Well, me too. Jay said. Luckily I didn't ask anything yet. By the way, your daughter's home. And the teacher isn't going to put her detention into her permanent record, so be thankful for that. Wait. Alex is in detention? Claire asked, confused and a bit alarmed. Is she acting out because I don't have much time for family these days? She muttered to herself. Or, she found out that you took what was rightfully hers. And turned into a delinquent because she finally understood the unfairness of the world. Phil said with a hurtful tone before he ran upstairs to comfort Alex. Phil. Claire called out in tired exasperation. I promise you I'll find you one. Edward POV. I chuckled as I read some of the comments posted on my post on Instagram while checking my phone on the hot tub. Look! Gordon Ramsay commented on my post. I turned the phone screen to Haley for her to look. She slowly made her way towards where I was and stuck her body on my arm, and at the same time perching her chin on top of it. That's crazy! She muttered in astonishment and excitement. All right. Go away now, I said urgently. She smirked and said, why? I just want to read some of the comments. You can do that on your phone. Just in case you didn't remember, you're in a timeout. I muttered playfully. And just in case you didn't remember, you touched me all over yesterday. So now that you're driving me away, it made me feel a little cheap. Haley said. I widened my eyes and said, oh. I'm sorry about that. It was never my intention. As I was apologizing, I saw her smirking face. You tricked me. I did. Haley smirked and placed her arm right in the middle of my leg. Maybe right now, you can be more honest with me if you don't want me to do that again. What do you want me to say? I want to kiss you? 'Cause I really do want to. Before I could finish my sentence, she leaned forward and kissed me on the lip. I stuck my tongue inside her mouth as she rummaged her hand on my hair. We separated for a bit, and before I could say anything, she put her finger on my lip to hush me and said, this doesn't mean anything. Just like you, last night bothered me too. I can't sleep without, a few times. I chuckled and said, all right then. No more talking. She grinned and then slowly lowered her head towards my crotch. As I was enjoying the moment, suddenly the rain poured down heavily. Ha! I exclaimed. What? She stopped what she was doing and asked, is it not good? Too much teeth? No, you're doing great. I'm just thinking, I am usually unlucky every time it rains. Haley chuckled in disbelief. What? Suddenly, we both heard Claire's voice coming out from behind us. Haley yelped as she saw her mother, and submerged herself into the water quickly. I was startled and turned to Claire in a hurry. Edward. Sorry for barging in, and oh, you're using the hot tub, Claire said casually. I was anxious, but I still kept a poker face. Why are you here? How did you get in? Oh. I'm here to see if there's any more pastries in your house. Then, I met your dad in front of the door, and he said you have an extra one in the fridge. My dad? I was confused. Haley poked me a few times and then whispered, make her go away. She can't see me like this. I don't have my clothes on. She will know. I didn't reply to her and said, Claire. This is the second time you came in while I was taking a bath. First time can be played as a coincidence. But the second time is a behavioral pattern. Claire turned pale instantly. What? No. I didn't do it on purpose. Your dad let me in. My dad then beside Claire and greeted me happily, hey Ed. I saw the dryers running, and the car seat was wet. Did you forget to close the top off during the rain? Yes. Please go and check it for me. Claire, there's an extra one in the fridge. It's the last one. So take it, and go away quickly. That made me feel a little bad, Claire said with a sad face. I didn't react much and said, Claire. I'm kinda in the nude right now, so. Oh. Claire widened her eyes in surprise and urgently said, I'll take it out and go away right now. She then grabbed the box of pastry from the fridge and said her goodbyes quickly. My dad smiled at me after she left, and then asked casually, how's the hot tub? It's the first time you're using it, right? Dad, you need to go to your room, I ordered. He was a bit confused. Huh? Are you embarrassed to be seen by me too? But I'm your dad. Yeah. But I got someone that's not your daughter inside the tub with me, and she's going to drown if you stay here any longer. My dad was taken aback, panicked, and said, right. Imma go. I nodded in satisfaction, and when my dad finally left, Haley got her body out of the water. She said teasingly, "Your luck is really really bad when it is raining." I played along, I know right? She then wrapped her arms around my neck and sat on my lap as she kissed me. I'll try to change that for you today. Chapter 184, How's the weather? General POV. Really? You didn't just give him everything? Tara spoke sarcastically as she talked on the phone with Haley. Haley rolled her eyes before turning on her stomach as she laid down on her bed. No. Of course not. Tara chuckled and teased, but it was close, right? Shut up. Haley replied with a slight smile. The point is, we didn't. I'm not going to give him my V-card when we are not even dating. Tara laughed out loud as she was making fun of Haley. So, how big is it? Tara asked with a slight blush. Haley rolled her eyes, and then she giggled and told Tara every single detail of her dalliance with Edward. Really? He was that good? Tara asked in shock after Haley told her about Edward's skill with his tongue. Can I try it too? I mean, you guys were only doing it as friends, right? I think I'm his friend too. Try it, and I'm going to castrate you, you slut. Haley smiled and spoke her menacing words with a soft tone. Tara giggled and then teased, well, you can't actually do anything to stop me. 'Cause you know, not his girlfriend. Ugh. Stop reminding me of that. Haley said in exasperation. After finishing the topic, Tara spoke of a new one. You're skipping school tomorrow? Yeah. I'm going to see the Jimmy Fallon interview live. Before that, we'll stop by his agency first early in the morning. This is a surprise, right? Edward didn't know about this? Pepper thought of it. My dad, Luke, and Alex will also be there. Mom got banned because she stole their pastries and she couldn't join the live show as a punishment. Ted and Camila would also join the show as part of the audience. Edward tried to get more seats, but the theater was already packed. Tara was baffled, but, you did it too? She knew that Haley had shared the pastries with her mother, but was confused as to why she managed to get away scot-free. Haley twirled her hair and said proudly, yeah. But I'm pretty, so Ed didn't get mad at me. Tara responded to that statement by making some puking sounds at the other side of the phone call. Okay then, good luck in New York. I'm very jealous of you right now. She ended the call with a depressed tone. Haley chuckled and said, stop it, wait. What? Are you feeling anxious and just now realized that Abby is in New York, and are wondering if you should take a few hours to visit her? Kinda. Yes. What should I do? Haley asked as she bit her lower lip in frustration. The next morning, Edward went to the new company building and entered the recording studio together with the other musicians that would help him. He was wearing a black leather jacket and black pants, paired with a few silver accessories. Harvey. Where's Pepper? Edward asked through the microphone as he held a guitar in his hand. Harvey smiled mischievously, pressed the button that would allow Edward to hear her, and said, you can sing first. Pepper has a stomach problem. Pepper, who was hiding behind the door, was baffled and he looked at Harvey in dissatisfaction. Ah. Is he getting diarrhea again? He should really get that checked out. Or else he'll get anal fissures and can't have a boyfriend ever again. Edward replied with some concern. Pepper gasped in offense as he heard it, while Phil, Luke, Haley and Alex took one step away from Pepper. Pepper whispered angrily to Phil and his children, I don't have diarrhea. Harvey chuckled as she saw Pepper's reaction. But then, her face froze as Edward said, for this new song, I'm going to put it in my private piles, and we should only revisit this when I'm older. What? Why? Harvey asked quickly. Edward shrugged and spoke casually, 'cause it's quite mature. I can't really release it right now under my name. Harvey quickly turned towards Luke and Alex as she thought about the situation. But, she was too late. Edward and the musicians there had already started to sing before she could remove the kids from the venue. Sweater weather, the neighborhood. An addictive beat spread all over the recording room. Edward smiled charmingly as he grabbed the microphone and shot a glance at Leo, who gave him a thumbs up, meaning there was no problem with the audio. Edward sang seductively.
All I am is a man. I want the world in my hands. I hate the beach, but I stand in California with my toes in the sand.
Haley widened her eyes as she thought about the adventure she had with Edward when she forced him to go to the beach. She cupped her mouth to prevent her excitement from leaking out, especially in front of her dad. Harvey and Pepper were sweating profusely, but as they heard the intro, they calmed down a little. Pepper whispered to himself, "All right. So far, so good. Great. All of us should go in right now." He pushed the family to stand behind the audio synthesizer panel before he went to stand next to Harvey. Edward continued,
Use the sleeves of my sweater. Let's have an adventure. Head in the clouds above my gravity centered.
Phil smiled knowingly as he alternated his glance between Haley, who was incredibly smitten, and Edward, who had no idea that they were here right now. Phil's commentary. He said with excitement, "Although I am concerned that we're invading Edward's personal and very private creative space, the song is actually about my daughter. So in a way, I have something to do with that song. So with that correlation, I can be here for this." Commentary ends.
Touch my neck and I'll touch yours. You and those little high-waisted shorts. Oh.
Edward closed his eyes as he sang with emotion. Haley gasped before laughing, while Alex and Luke enjoyed the beat without actually thinking about the lyric much. Harvey mumbled, "Oh my God." Pepper froze. Phil smiled innocently, but as he turned to look at Pepper's ashen face, he finally realized it and his face froze too. Edward continued obliviously.
He knows what I think about, and what I think about. One love, two mouths, one love, one house. No shirt, no blouse, just us, you find out. Nothing that we don't wanna tell you about, no. 'Cause it's too cold for you here and now. So let me hold both your hands in the holes of my sweater.
Haley's commentary. She smiled with a flushing face. "Wow, just, wow, so that's what he thinks about, huh?" She then giggled to herself as she couldn't wait to tease Edward.
Let me just take your breath away. I don't mind if there's not much to say. Sometimes the silence guides our minds to move to a place so far away.
Edward smiled in reminiscence as he sang the next verse.
The goosebumps start to raise the minute that my left hand meets your waist. And then I watch your face, put my finger on your tongue 'cause you love the taste, yeah.
Phil slowly moved his hand towards Luke's ear and closed them. Luke was baffled and pushed Phil's hand instantly as he wanted to hear the song.
These hearts adore everyone the other beats hardest for. Inside this place is warm, outside is our support.
Alex finally realized it and then turned to Haley with a shocked expression. "You said you didn't do anything yesterday during the rain." Wah! Phil heard his daughter's whisper and fell into shock.
Down, one love, two mouths, one love, one house. No shirt, no blouse, just us, you find out. Nothing that we don't wanna tell you about, no, no, no.
Chorus.
'Cause it's too cold for you here and now. So let me hold both your hands in the holes of my sweater. For you here and now. So let me hold both your hands in the holes of my sweater.
The music changed and Edward finally turned towards the glass wall. He froze for a bit as he saw the Dunphys there, but he couldn't stop singing. He waved weakly at them, blood rushed to his ears, turning them red.
'Cause it's too cold for you here and now, so let me hold both your hands in the hole. I swear it's too cold for you now, let me hold both your hands in the hole of my sweater. It's too cold, it's too cold, the handles harder.
As Edward sang the outro and ended the song, only Leo and the Dunphy's children clapped for Edward's performance. Leo said through the speaker button, "Great recording as usual, Edward. Do you want to sing another time and see if you can trump that up? What are they doing here? Also, no." Edward replied to Leo after pointing to the guests inside the recording studio. As he walked out of the recording room, he couldn't look Phil in the eye, and pretended that he needed to go to the bathroom to get away from there. Pepper poked Phil's shoulder as he was processing his feeling and reminded Phil, "Remember. He said that he's going to hold this song for a few years until he grows up. So, that's how we should react to this. Also, they definitely didn't go all the way yesterday. Or else I can see it," Harvey added. Phil was baffled, then he asked Harvey seriously, "Wait. Are you sure about this?" Harvey nodded and said, "Yeah. Women can know if another woman loses it. If you're still suspicious, you can ask your wife about it. She'll definitely know. Women, especially mothers who care a lot about their child, would notice this. Maybe it was the way they were walking after, or any other reasons, but mothers would notice it." Phil finally breathed a sigh of relief and pushed the thoughts far, far away in his mind. Edward POV. Well, that was traumatizing. I muttered to myself after I got away from the recording studio. Haley followed me from behind and she couldn't stop laughing. I glared at her and said playfully, "Oh. Is this funny to you?" "Without a doubt," she replied teasingly. She then fixed my jacket and collar before saying, "But we're going to put a pin on that. 'Cause I noticed that you're the type to run away if you're embarrassed about something. Depends on the type of embarrassment. Familial, I can take it. I won't run away from my friends either. But I will surely run away if I fucked up in front of my..." "You're what?" she asked as I stopped abruptly. I smiled and said, "Oh, nothing. We should get all of them and move to the airport right now." Haley was confused. "In front of my what?" Edward's commentary. Edward rubbed his chin for a bit and he scoffed to himself. Well, I surprised myself there. The ending to that sentence was, "In front of my girlfriend's dad, He smiled in disbelief while throwing his hand in the air in excitement. He said jokingly, I know that I like her, but right now, I'm more worried about how to face her dad after this." Commentary ends. It's a 5-hour flight, so get comfortable, Pepper said as he sat on the front seat of the plane with Harvey sitting facing him. They were sipping some wine and eating snacks that the stewardess brought, before wearing an eye mask to pretend that they were sleeping. It was a smart move from them. Too bad I didn't have that luxury. Phil was sitting directly in front of me, and now is currently asking me an important question: "What is your intention in becoming friends with my daughter?" I paused for a bit and asked, "Which one?" He furrowed his eyebrow before he said, "Haley?" "Oh. It was mainly pure." "Was?" Phil caught my mistake immediately. He scowled and then said, "Look. I know that you're now a teenager and your hormone is currently going haywire dash." Haley interjected quickly, "Dad. Stop. We're just friends. Also, you shouldn't tire him out." Phil thought about it then sighed. I was finally relieved as he was letting go of the topic for now. Luke asked, "Hey. Who's Jimmy Fallon?" Is he another SNL guy? Alex asked. Haley was also curious. He's just starting his show this year, right? And now it's ending? I answered to Haley, no. It's going to continue for a long time. He already has over 100 guests right now. The show was aimed for the adult audiences, so they had never watched it before. The late-night show that started in February 2009, and was only aired once every 2 days, didn't receive that much love from the audience at the beginning. But, after a few games with the guests, Jimmy's overreaction to every single joke made him earn a spot in the people's heart. Currently, the fanbase for the show is relatively small. In the future, it would grow to become one of the most popular talk shows in the country. I'm just making some investments in that. Made a little tweak from his past world. Harvey and Pepper were confused as to why I agreed with the invitation to get on the show, but didn't agree with Ellen DeGeneres' invitation. But they didn't try to convince me much. Everyone has their own preferences, right? Who's your co-guest? Alex asked. I rubbed my chin and said, I'm not sure yet. It was supposed to be Juliana Margulies and Usain Bolt, I think. But right now, I'm not quite sure. Pepper? I turned to Pepper, and saw that he was truly sleeping right now. I shrugged and said, I guess I'll find out when I get there. It could be Megan Fox though. Haley furrowed her brows while Phil's eyes lit up. Why do you think it'll be her? Haley asked with a hint of jealousy. The movie Jennifer's Body had just released last week. So it may be her. I am not quite sure yet. Like, a hot body or? Haley asked. Like, a hot, dead body. A horror movie. I replied playfully, making Haley laugh. It's cold. Haley rubbed her arm as she exited the plane. It's New York in late September. Of course it's cold. I replied before I took off my leather jacket and put it around her. She smiled shyly and twirled her hair. I'm cold too. Phil said. Well, I only have one jacket. I replied jokingly. Luke asked Phil, are we running away from home because Mom ate our donut? No, Luke. We're here to support Edward in his show filming today. Phil replied. But, you said, that's going to teach her a lesson. Phil just looked around guiltily before putting a scarf on Luke. Randall was already in New York, and he picked us up. We went directly to the NBC headquarters at 30 Rockefeller Plaza to prepare for the show. Ed, you don't need to prepare? Randall asked worriedly after he saw me leisuring around the guest room. Ah, don't worry about that. I had already read all the notes last night. I replied. Randall was skeptical about my answer, but he didn't want to pressure me. Are you sure? He asked. I nodded and replied in a casual manner, I'm sure. Also, who's that? What? Randall turned around quickly, and he instantly blocked the door to prevent any threats from getting near me. A slim, long-haired blonde woman with Paris Hilton-like demeanor, huge pearls around her neck, and fingers that were filled with giant rings, walked casually into my waiting room. She slightly pushed Randall away, but he slipped and fell to the floor. Hi. Edward Newgate. I'm your biggest fan. She said with a slightly snobbish tone while pushing Randall away and offered a handshake at me assertively. Hi. I seem to know you. I muttered as I scrutinized her face. She smiled and said, I'm Caroline Channing. You might know me from my father, Martin Channing. Ah, the billionaire who shook my hand at my NYC concert. He's a very charming man. I said sarcastically, but it went over the girl's head. Caroline was elated, I know, right? Caroline Channing, Two Broke Girl Show. Well, that man was also running a Ponzi scheme. That's how he became a billionaire. I found out about that when he tried to talk to Pepper about an investment opportunity before. Given that he was handsome, Pepper almost fell into that scheme and invested millions of our hard-earned money into it. Edward had never watched that show before, so he didn't know the plot. He only knew about the two girl being broke, and they wanted to run a cupcake business. I'm sorry to bother you, especially right before you are going to film the show. Caroline said honestly while throwing her head back and threw her hands in the air. Jazz hand. I was taken aback when I saw her demeanor. Unlike her dad, she was actually quite innocent, albeit she was snobbish. But it wasn't like she was acting snobbish. That was how she was raised, to be a rich girl. She didn't really know how to be anything else. I just want to introduce myself. Because I really like to be your friend. She said without hiding anything. I smiled kindly and replied, that's quite a tough request. Really? She asked incredulously, acting like me saying no was the vilest thing that ever happened to her. I crossed my arm and said, yes. Not that I don't think that you're a good person. Based on our 30-second meeting, I think that you're a very nice girl. But your dad. What do you mean? What did my dad do? She asked in confusion. I shrugged and said, you should figure that out on your own. And if you did figure it out, my advice to you is to bury some cash for your future somewhere secret. Ha! Caroline exclaimed. Wait, what are you talking about? Do you want a picture? I asked her. Her concerns melted and she replied sweetly, of course I want a picture. She took out her iPhone with a Hello Kitty diamond casing and then posed using a duck face as we took the picture. Security then escorted her away, and I turned to Randall, who was rubbing his sore arm from the fall, with a glare on my face. Really? You fall on the floor? He said guiltily, well, she's not very strong, but I don't want to get scratched by her ring. You know what, I'm not going to say anything about this, 'cause I think that you'll think about what you did and strive to be better without me telling you to do it. I said. Randall smiled guiltily and agreed with my words in a weak manner. Yeah, I promised myself that I will go to the gym after this. Good. Okay, as a punishment, you need to go to Williamsburg and find a restaurant called the Williamsburg Diner. Randall's eyes lit up with the determination to prove himself. Is that like a famous restaurant? I shook my head and replied naughtily, no. It's a shitty diner. There's also some chance that it is owned by the Russian mafia. Randall gulped his saliva and asked me fearfully, what do you want me to do there? I smirked and said, I need you to find a girl named Max Black. If you find a girl working there with black hair, very mean, and has a huge breast, then you'll find the right girl. I need you to get me her cupcakes. Randall was aggrieved. Edward. You're pretty famous. A lot of girls would give their cupcakes to you for free. You don't have to hire an escort, which, I'm 99% sure is illegal in this state. I narrowed my eyes on him and said, you have a really low opinion of me, huh? I'm not asking you to get her. I'm asking you to get her cupcakes. She makes and sells cupcakes. Randall was finally relieved. Oh. Is this like a food hunt like that blog video you always watch? Go go go. I chased him away before he could get the answer to that question. Chapter 185, Tonight Show, Part 1. Edward POV. It is Megan Fox. I muttered with a slight astonishment as my prediction came true. I was waiting behind the curtain as Jimmy Fallon interviewed the actress. The show started with a stand-up skit by Jimmy, then a game with the audiences. Phil was lucky enough to be selected, and the game they played was truly one of his strengths. The game was called, Can You Guess It by Licking It?, where they put out some fruit, fishes, some plastic toys, and the audience members that were blindfolded needed to guess what it was. Phil won the game by a landslide because no one else there wanted to lick a raw fish. The shooting passed by incredibly fast, and it took only half an hour for the segment to welcome me on the stage. My next guest is the most famous teenager in the whole world, shattering almost all records with his debut album, Breaking, and also the world's cutest pastry maker. Please welcome Edward Newgate. The crowd applauded cheerfully with a few of them whistling and shouting my name. Luke and Phil shouted in excitement as they called out my name. I blew some kisses towards them, causing the audience to exclaim in excitement. Jimmy laughed and reacted. I shook hands with Jimmy and he told me to have a seat on the couch next to his desk. Wow. It was very nice meeting you for the very first time, Jimmy said with a slight awe. I can't believe you flew all the way from California just to join my show. I nodded and said, well, I need a way to play hooky from school, then I get your text. The crowd laughed at my honesty. I turned to Jimmy, leaned my body on the armrest while clasping my hands together. Also, this isn't our very first meeting. Huh? It's not? Jimmy asked, confused and a little bit pale. Yeah. We first met when I was doing my concert here in NYC, and you came to meet me backstage. I remember it distinctively because I was extremely excited to eat some authentic New York bagel at that time, and you walked in. And by the time you left, the bag of bagels disappeared. Jimmy was shocked, speechless. He widened his eyes and dropped his jaw as he looked directly into the camera. Phil held his stomach as he laughed, and the audience there started accusing Jimmy with their exclamation while laughing too. Jimmy waved his arms in protest and said, Hold on. Hold on. I didn't take your bagels. I shrugged and I said lightly, I didn't say that you took it. I'm just saying, it disappeared. You think that you're the one who took it might be your guilty conscience acting. I didn't do it. Jimmy said, his face lit up with excitement as he watched the crowd reacting to the skit we prepared. It was by far the greatest reaction he had ever gotten from the studio audience yet. Luke whispered to Alex, why is he here if Jimmy ate his bagel? To get revenge? Should we support him? Alex rolled her eyes and said, no you idiot. He's just joking around. And if he needed to get revenge on someone who stole his food, he's going to get revenge on you first. Just in case you didn't remember, Alex. He already punished me. Luke said with confidence. Megan Fox, who hasn't left yet, also reacted to the skit. She covered her mouth as she laughed silently from the side of the stage, standing where no camera could notice her. We'll talk about that later. Maybe, over some bagels. Jimmy fixed his messy index card and lowered his eyes guiltily, earning laughs from the audience again. Now that we have brushed that aside, audience laugh, I wanted to talk to you about, everything in your career, and get to know you a little bit too. He slightly patted me on the shoulder as he ended his sentence, giving the audience the impression that we are close. He read from the cue card, I just want to say, that your breaking album country tour, you announced it. And then 48 hours later, all the tickets for your performance, all become unavailable. All of them were sold out. I reacted like I was in disbelief and said casually, that's insane, while Jimmy lowered his head and stared at me. Jimmy said, what does it feel like? Honestly? It feels incredible. I replied. The support that everyone has given me made me feel like I was dreaming. I can't imagine getting to where I am right now, a few months ago. The journey that I faced, and the help that people have been offering me, I'm never going to take them for granted. He then asked me a few questions about how I got started in the industry, the journey I have experienced, and also the inspirations behind my album. I shared my story and went on a long monologue for a while. /N, people already knew about his background, so Emma skip it. Jimmy listened empathetically and said, so, you can say that you owe your success today to your fans? Absolutely. I replied with a playful smile. Being handsome, smart, and talented is just a tiny, tiny factor, right? Jimmy added teasingly. It is not, but I'm not supposed to say that out loud. I joked. Jimmy and the audience laughed before Jimmy said, not supposed to say that out loud. Just like when you can't say that you're the personification of the American dream? American dream? I asked with a confused smile. Yes. Or, how else would you explain this clip? Jimmy asked. I was baffled and asked incredulously, what dash? The studio then played a short video, taken during Eeny Meeny music video filming, where a bald eagle landed on my arm. It showed that while everyone was freaking out in the video, I talked to the eagle calmly and coaxed him to leave my hand. It took almost 20 seconds, then the eagle finally flew away. I covered my face as I laughed after the camera cut back towards me. Jimmy chuckled and said, see. Literally. The embodiment of America landed on your arm. You talk to him like he is your friend. This is the proof. I chuckled and said, "Oh man." At that time, I was really confused as to what I should be doing. You know, you can't touch the eagle. It's in the law. So that's all I can do. You can't just shake your hand a little? Maybe throw a bagel in front of him? Jimmy asked teasingly. So that's what you did with my bagel? You used it to feed the eagle? I said accusingly, causing Jimmy to be baffled again, and the crowd to burst into laughter. Jimmy then hid his mouth and whispered, "Duck." "Oh. You fed the duck, you did take it," I accused, causing the crowd to burst into laughter. Speaking of pastries with holes in the middle, I think I'm speaking for everyone in the country when I say that we are curious about how you get the idea to invent the cronuts. I was genuinely confused at this time. What do you mean? Jimmy explained, you know. Your Instagram video that you posted yesterday, where you decide to create a brand new dessert? He started to ramp up my achievement and took out a screenshot of my Instagram post that was scaled up into an A4 size before showing it to the audience. See? You can't deny it. I got the proof, right here. He said jokingly. My eyes shook and I chuckled a bit. Hold on. I'm not saying that I didn't post the video yesterday, but did I invent the cronut? I don't think I did. Ha! Jimmy smiled and said urgently, no. It has never existed since the day before yesterday. You're messing with me, I said with a slight nervous chuckle. Jimmy's eyes lit up and he said, you didn't know? I was shaken at this moment. Wait. Did I really do that? Phil? I turned to Phil in the audience and asked while the crowd was exclaiming wildly as they saw my reaction. Phil nodded from afar and shouted, you did. You invented it. I stood up in shock, and Jimmy mimicked me too while the crowd laughed at the both of us. I think they assumed that I was joking, but I really wasn't joking at this moment. Haley held back her laughter while Alex didn't keep any of it inside. She cackled loudly as she muttered, I knew it. He treated it like casual, but I knew it. He really didn't know. Phil added, it was rare to see Edward react like this. He's usually so calm and cool. Haley mumbled, I know. He looks so cute right now. I calmed myself down quickly and continued to play along by telling the story about the cronut invention. As I was recording the video, I really didn't think that I was inventing a new pastry. I really thought that everyone else knew about it. Cronut. The combination of croissant and donut. It was a normal dessert for me. I didn't know that the rest of you didn't know. Yeah, you invented it. You can believe my words. But I guess that when you do so many things it just all blends together, right? Jimmy said before he turned to the audience and said, did you guys know, the social media platform, Instagram, was created by Edward himself? The crowd gasped in shock and awe, then Jimmy added, I'm not finished. WhatsApp. LinkedIn. The new air fryer. Cronuts. All of these wouldn't exist if Edward didn't exist in this world. I showed a shy smile as I didn't think that he would talk about all of this. So, is it safe for me to assume that you like creating new things? You can, just call me Ed. I said, causing the audience to cheer for Jimmy. He said excitedly, really? I can call you that? Wow. Now I can brag about it to a lot of other people. I chuckled a little bit and waited for Jimmy to finish his reaction before answering, well. You can say that. I do like tinkering with things. But it's not like I'm doing it all the time, and I'm not going to be like Iron Man or anything. I like to eat more healthy food, so, air fryer. I want to text with my friends, send memes to them, so, WhatsApp. I want my company to be able to search for more employees, hence, LinkedIn. I didn't invent them casually though. I need inspiration for them too. For example, a few days ago, as I wore a jacket that I like, the collar was already linty. Jimmy commented, I hate it when that happens. I nodded and said, yeah. And using the lint remover roller for me is very wasteful, not to mention that it didn't work very well at that location. So, I fiddled a bit with the design for an electric lint remover. Jimmy was thoroughly impressed at this moment. Really? So, can we expect to see that electronic device in the market in the future? If it works, then maybe. Yeah. I replied ambiguously. I was sure that most of the interview would be cut out, so I was just saying anything at this moment. The show only lasted for about 40 minutes in the final cut, and I didn't think that they would split half of that time, just to show them my interview. You should send me one, for free, after you make it. Then, I'm going to review it for you, Jimmy said jokingly while knocking the table. Maybe not for free, like, I had already given you free bagels. I joked, causing Jimmy to burst into laughter. After laughing, Jimmy asked, alright, moving on. We know that you're now collaborating with Sean Kingston for the song, Eeny Meeny, that is going to be released this week, and also I need to ask, what about your collaboration with Taylor? The crowd exclaimed excitedly as he asked that question. I smiled and then said, the collaboration is still in the works. It is just pushed back a couple of weeks, because right now, I need Taylor to focus on her album Fearless, which will be released on October 1st. The collaboration will come out after that. The crowd cheered thunderously when I announced it. They didn't think it was weird because they already knew that I was the current president of the entertain agency, even though I couldn't claim that position officially. My current situation was compared to Bruce Wayne after the death of his parents, where Alfred took care of the company business, but the company was still legitimately Bruce's. Jimmy asked, you're acting in her music video too? Just like when you film Love Story. By the way, I love that music video. Yeah. Me too. I said, causing the audience to chuckle. You're a great actor. I saw your documentary. Fort War? Yes. That. Did you know that a lot of Star Wars fans have been begging George Lucas to give you a role? I didn't know that. But I got a tweet from Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor about it. Jimmy dropped his jaw before he held his head and screamed, Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. Yo, you should really consider taking acting jobs. It'll be a waste for you not to. I chuckled a bit and said, I won't limit myself to just singing, so maybe one day though. Jimmy asked playfully, is there like, a character that you wanted to be cast in, or a genre that you're interested? I answered instantly, Spider-Man. No doubt. The crowd cheered, and then I added jokingly, I also have an Aunt May, so the role is like, calling for me. Jimmy clapped and wheezed for a while before he asked, you're close with Robert Downey Jr., is that the reason why you want to be a hero? That, and also the fact that I am a major comic book fan. So, I added with a slight smirk. Jimmy and I saw the cameraman asking him to wrap things up. Jimmy said, well, everyone knows that you're a great artist, a singer, an actor, inventor, pastry maker. He struggled to list them all out, making the audience laugh. But what people don't know about you is that you're also a great impressionist. Well, I do okay. But I understand that you too are a great impressionist. So I came here today to challenge you. Here, I even created something for you. I took out the buzzer button with the label, The Late Night Show with Jimmy Fallon, and gave it to him. He took it and was moved. Ah. He said, the last guest who gave me a gift was Justin Timberlake, and he only did it to congratulate me for getting my show. Can the camera zoom in, take a look at that? He showed the buzzer button to the camera, and the crowd exclaimed, aw. But, if you lose the game, then I will take this back. I said jokingly. Then, I cannot lose. He said with confidence before explaining the game to the audience. With that in mind, it's time for the new game, Wheel of Musical Impressions. Here we go. The band played a tune while the screen played the game title animation. The band roots played melodiously, and I swayed my body to the tune a little bit. The crowd cheered thunderously, and Jimmy continued with a huge grin on his face. Here's how it works. We're going to take turns hitting the button here, which will activate the musical impression generator. He showed the button I gave him to the audience in the room. And it'll land on a random singer and a random song. Jimmy placed the buttons down while I nodded in agreement to his words. And whoever turns it is, you have to do the impression of the musician singing that song. Okay. Edward, you go first. Here's your microphone. Bring it on. I muttered while I fixed my sitting to face the audience directly. Jimmy asked, "Are you ready?" Then, press the button. There was a monitor by the camera where we could watch the generator rolling. Jimmy was excited, singing the Sesame Street theme song, as Michael Jackson. Oh my god. Wait, okay, got it. I said after checking the pitch I needed to cover the song as Michael Jackson. Jimmy laughed and then the band played a beat that is similar to the song, Beat It by Michael Jackson. I held the microphone and bobbed my head to the tune before closing my eyes and sang with a high-pitched voice, "Sunny Day." The moment I sang that, the crowd cheered explosively while Jimmy covered his mouth in shock. "How can I beat this?" he exclaimed while putting his hand on the top of his head. I continued, sweeping the clouds away on my way to where the air is sweet. "Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street?" The crowd stood up to cheer while Jimmy exclaimed madly, "What? That was amazing." He threw his hand on the empty space in front of him. "Your turn," I said to Jimmy. He shook his microphone exaggeratedly to show that he was fearful, and then pressed the button as he surrendered to his fate. Gloria Estefan singing, "London Bridge is Falling Down." Jimmy muttered. I laughed beside him as the band played a tune similar to the song, Samba, causing Jimmy to sweat profusely. But he did manage to do it. "Not that bad. Not that bad." I said, "You can give me a challenge." "Really, master?" he said with a deep voice. I nodded and pretended to brush my beard. "Yes, young ones." Then, both of us burst into laughter. It was my turn again, and I pressed the button. "Wait. Stevie Wonder, singing Since You've Been Gone, that's really hard to do." I looked a bit worried and said, "I'll do my best." Haley and Alex scoffed at their seats and said, as if it's hard for him. The band played a tune similar to Isn't She Lovely by Stevie Wonder. I wasn't going to lie, this was hard for me to accomplish. Can you change it to something similar to Part-Time Lover?" I muttered to the band. They nodded and changed the beat quickly. Then, I used my best Stevie Wonder impression voice and sang, "And all you'd ever hear me say is how I picture me with you. That's all you'd ever hear me say. But since you've been gone." I stood up as I sang this. The crowd cheered thunderously and applauded my performance. I can breathe for the first time. I'm so moving on, yeah. Thanks to you. Now I get what I want. Since you've been gone. The band played me out as I stopped singing while Jimmy shouted excitedly, "The champion! Edward Newgate, everyone!" He pointed at me aggressively, and then pulled me in for a hug as I turned towards him. The cheer slowed down and diminished after a while. I turned to Jimmy and said, "You're not going to continue?" "I can't. I'm totally defeated today," Jimmy said jokingly. "Well, then, I think that you need this more than I do," I said and gave the button to him. "Really?" He pretended to be confused. I nodded slightly and said, "Yes. You need the practice. I'll leave the button here, and you should train hard at making impression until the time I come here again." "Wow. That's amazing," Jimmy said with a slight chuckle. "Can I use it with the other guests?" "Absolutely." I nodded, causing the audience to chuckle. That wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.